Today marks the fifth time that Republicans have asked to end debate and allow us to discuss funding the Department of Homeland Security. So for the people at home that don't keep up with Senate procedures, what the Democrats have actually done, again, for the fifth time, is not even let us get on the bill and actually debate it. They have refused to allow us to consider the bill, which is a pretty remarkable scenario when you think of the effects. And for those who aren't as familiar, the Department of Homeland Security was created right after 9/11, the attacks of 9/11. I don't know about you, Mr. President, but I know exactly where I was when that second plane hit the tower, because that's when we knew we were under attack. We took a bunch of the agencies that are charged with protecting this country and put them into this very, very large agency that today employs 260,000 Americans. If this was a private company, it would be absolutely a Fortune 50, maybe even a Fortune 25 enterprise. Huge, huge organization. The one part of the Constitution that's crystal clear is that our responsibility is to fund the government. And yet for the third time, we now are in either a full or partial government shutdown that the Democrats have initiated because they refuse to do the basic work, funding the government. Now, you'll see a lot of noise from the Democrats, and when they say, well, yes, they acknowledge that they have not funded the entire department. So they'll say, but we want to fund this agency or this agency within the Department of Homeland Security. But they won't tell you, because obviously then they would have to admit what is it that they really want, is they don't want to fund Customs and Border Patrol, and they don't want to fund Immigration and Customs and Customs Enforcement. So you think, well, what do those two agencies do that would make the Democrats not want to fund them? So let's talk about the first one, Customs and Border Patrol. All of us who've ever flown in from a foreign country and you see the person that greets you, that's somebody from Border Patrol or Customs. Why would you not want to fund that agency? I think what's interesting is the way the Senate is set up, the appropriations process is meant to allocate money, and then we have committees whose job it is to set the policies for those, but they don't want to do that. They're tying both together and saying, we just don't want to fund it. Typically, when you don't want to fund an agency, it's a way of saying we don't want that function any longer. So they don't want to have customs. They don't want to have people inspecting packages. We're in the middle of deep hostilities with a very savvy adversary, and you don't want to have somebody guarding our border, checking our ports, making sure these containers don't have hazardous materials. We've all seen the movies. Those are the people from Customs and Border Patrol. I haven't heard one rational explanation from my Democrat colleagues why on earth they would not want to fund Customs and Border Patrol. Now, of course, it's no secret to anybody that the Democrats have been held hostage by the extremists in their base who want to both either abolish ICE or defund ICE. So what is ICE? Immigration and Customs Enforcement. It's basically broken down into two organizations. You have something called Enforcement and Removal Operations. Now, what do? Pretty straightforward mission. If somebody enters the country illegally, a judge gives them a hearing and says you have a final order of deportation. It is a job of that agency to remove that person from the country. Is that what they're looking not to have happen any longer? Then the other one is Homeland Security investigations. What do? I'm going to read you the mission statement. It says criminal investigations targeting transnational criminal organization and terrorist networks that exploit U.S. customs and immigration laws. Seems like a decently important function. You can see it here on this chart. It's 7,000 special agents. So I wish we would just have a more honest debate here, and that my Democrat colleagues would stand up and say, look, we just want to abolish immigration and customs enforcement. We want to abolish the enforcement and removal operations. They do not want to take people out of the country that are here illegally. It's that simple. Instead, what they're doing is they're keeping 260,000 people without a paycheck. I said, and I'll say it again today, I find it deeply ironic and, quite frankly, I'll use the word disgusting, that we here in the United States Senate are getting paid while 260,000 people aren't getting paid because of political shenanigans from the other side. Just morally reprehensible. We need to do our job. We need to get the Department of Homeland Security funded. And I'm going to end with one difference between what we're seeing now and what we saw during the Biden era. I think by any metric, by any standard, during Mayorkas' term as the Secretary of Homeland Security, it was a total abject disaster. We allowed tens of millions of unvetted migrants to enter this country. We had no idea who they were, where they came from, what their intent was, or quite frankly, where they were going. Border Patrol was a total disaster during the Biden years, total and complete failure. But you know what we understood as Republicans? It wasn't the fault of the Border Patrol agents. It was a fault of policy. And yet Republicans still funded the agency. Because when we're not happy with the executive, we have a few other tools that we should be using. We could have impeached Mayorkas. Democrats unanimously fought against that. And by the way, we passed no new laws, and yet our border went from the most open in American history to a border that is now completely zero. Zero illegals enter this country in the last 10 months. Zero, not one. During the Biden years, it was 10,000 a day. And yet Republicans funded Customs and Border Patrol because we knew it was not the fault of the agents. It was the fault of a commander-in-chief and a cabinet secretary with Democrat enablers here in Congress that allowed that to happen. Just keep that in mind as these arguments get made. It's Friday. People should be thinking about March Madness and which their favorite team is, what they're going to do for the weekend. And millions of Americans are doing that. But 260,000 American families are wondering, are they going to pay for that barbecue? Are they going to make the rent payment? Are they going to pay for the car payment? Are they going to pay for that vacation that they had planned? Because they've now missed 3 paychecks. I hope to get a point in time when our Democrat colleagues find their humanity, because this is what it is about, their humanity, to do the right thing, fund the Department of Homeland Security, and then let's have a robust argument around oversight and how we do it. And with that, Mr. President, I yield the floor.